The Metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross-Friedman, founder and CEO of Super Social, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome to Into the Metaverse with me again, Louis Rosenberg, who I hosted last week, and this is part 2, that we're going to continue to talk about the role of AI in the Metaverse, the opportunities and the dangers. Louis, great to have you back for part 2.
Yeah, I'm excited to continue the conversation.
So I want to start by talking about when we think about the challenges and opportunities in the Metaverse and the role of AI, I am a very big believer that one of the major paradigm shifts that are going to happen with the evolution of the internet is going to be the role of virtual avatars, not just isolated in virtual world alone, but also in the context of interacting with our IRL identity. How does AI going to impact identity in the next era of the internet?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a variety of different issues that come in once you bring AI into the question. The first is, once we humans have photorealistic avatars, which I think we will have soon. Meta has famously started publicizing their codec avatars. I actually had a chance to experience it in a headset maybe 6 months ago at Meta. I was really impressed with the realism of what they've achieved. And I'm not usually easily impressed with, I'm always, looking for the flaws. But even up close, the way the hair moved and just up close, like the eyes, like look watery. And that's where we're headed. We're headed to a place, not tomorrow, but soon, where we can have photorealistic avatars, look human. They could look exactly like yourself, or they could look like somebody else. And with AI, we now also have to realize that just as easily as it would be for you to inhabit a photorealistic avatar, an AI can inhabit a photorealistic avatar. And so we're not that far from the place where it's very hard to tell if you're talking to a person or an artificial agent. They will look human, they will act human, they will have facial expressions that make us feel like they're human, but they will be driven by large language models and other AI systems that will be communicating with us very naturally. And there's some amazing things about that and some really scary things about that. But all of these things combined really mean that our whole sense of identity is changing. It's changing because you can look exactly like yourself, or you can look exactly like a totally different person. And you, as a user, might have multiple identities that you switch between for different reasons, and you will interact with, conversational entities that look and act human that aren't. And so, how we think of ourselves, how we think of our place in society, it's about to change, and we're going to enter a world where there are both human and non-human entities. And I'm not saying that these AI systems are sentient. I'm just saying that they will interact with us as part of our lives in much the same way that other people interact with us.
That is quite a profound statement, right? And I'm just wondering, what does the internet looks like when me, as a human user, can interact with AI users, all in the form of avatars? And more than that, what does that internet looks like when I can have my own avatar, quote unquote, disciples, who roam around the internet on my behalf and doing things on my behalf? Think about this is what I'm encouraging everyone to think about, what happens when you can extend your human capabilities, your human thoughts, ideas. Today, when I have a task list, I need to activate each and one of them. It could well be that in the future, I will have a little group, a little team of avatars that I can actually assign them with certain tasks and come back to me with the results. I mean, who knows? I'm sure there are going to be companies who will create OKRs for your avatars so you can hold them accountable for execution. That's not that crazy, right?
It's not crazy, and it's certainly what a number of large tech companies want to deploy. They the two places that a lot of large companies are talking about is this idea of digital twins, where you will have a representation of yourself. It could be AI powered, and you could send it to a meeting, and it can represent your the few things you wanted to say for you in that meeting. That's a vision that multiple companies have. And personally, I think it's creepy and raises all kinds of problems. I mean, you could easily imagine a scenario where everybody just sends their representative to a meeting and nobody's actually in the meeting. And is that really even a meeting? And then the other place that big tech is really pushing is this idea of AI assistants, virtual assistants that will help us through our day. And that's a priority for all of these big tech companies. It's the evolution of Siri and Alexa, and Microsoft is rolling out their Copilot technologies, and Google has their own, and they all are starting out as simple text chatbots that can assist you, but they're on this progression to ultimately be personified, and then ultimately be these very realistic characters. Meta at Meta Connect announced that they have chatbots that will replicate Paris Hilton and Tom Brady and Snoop Dogg, and that's part of this path that they're on, which is they can put these I call them virtual spokespeople into the world. Those virtual spokespeople can represent real celebrities. Why are they doing that? They're doing that because real celebrities already have a sense of trust and have a community and have a group of people who want to interact with them. And so that's kind of the first layer of these digital twins, is people will start interacting with these virtual celebrities who are basically, essentially doing a book signing by sending out a million clones. And people have the chance to pretend to talk with them. And again, starting out as text chat, it will be voice chat, and it will be photorealistic within not long. And so you will be able to interact with any celebrity through their digital twin. And as people get comfortable with that, then they will start to say, well, I can have my digital twin go to a meeting. But the question is, will people accept it? Will people think that it's authentic, or will they think that it's a gimmick, right? Because you're not really interacting with your favorite athlete. You're interacting with an avatar and an AI.
It's actually really weird because they put Tom Brady, but then that avatar is called like Dylan or something, which is, why would you give it a different name and it looks like Tom Brady? That's so weird. And I was taken aback, and I didn't think that's a sustainable approach. If you're talking to someone that looks like Tom Brady, you want it to look like Tom Brady, you want it to be the name of Tom Brady, then there's a whole different challenge about that. If Tom Brady wants it to be Tom Brady because it's not really him, but it's also inauthentic because it's fake, because it's not Tom Brady. This person is called Dylan. So I thought the whole thing is weird.
It's weird, but we know where they're headed, and we know that ultimately it will become more realistic. But again, just because it seems more realistic, just because we get better and better at faking it, at having an AI pretend to be Tom Brady, it doesn't make it any more Tom Brady. And yet that's where we're headed. And so we're, pretty soon Tom Brady, avatar will be able to sell you a car. And so it will be effective, right? If you went to a virtual dealership and a virtual Tom Brady walks up to you, and even though it's not real, like it's like we know, if you see a TV commercial for Ford and there's a celebrity in it, we know, they're getting paid to do that, and they might not even think that's a great car. but advertisers wouldn't do it if they didn't know it worked, right? So even if you know, even if you know intellectually that they're just getting paid to do that, you're being influenced in a way. And imagine how much more that influence will be when you're not just watching a TV commercial. You're actually, taking a test drive in your virtual car with Tom Brady, sitting next to you. It's creepy, and there's so much potential for abuse and manipulation. I worry about it a lot. There's so many amazing uses of virtual and augmented reality technologies. But once we start interacting with avatars, whether they're promotional or they're from somebody that who's it's their digital twin and they don't have time to take your call, I think we start to lose a lot. It's funny because it's playing off of one of humans' greatest skills, but it's also a weakness. Like, one of our greatest skills is that we are really good at talking to another person and understanding, and building a mental model of who that person is, and understanding their emotion and having empathy for that person. And our brain is wired to really react to facial expressions and emotions and feel what somebody else is feeling, and that's a strength of humanity. And now we're kind of we're shorting out our circuitry because we evolved to instill empathy in other creatures that we're interacting with, not thinking that they could just be completely faked, that you could be interacting with an AI that looks human and is triggering all the mirror neurons in your brain, but it doesn't feel those emotions. It doesn't feel it's not authentic. It's completely, a simulation, and it exposes us to potential for being manipulated. And so, hopefully, these experiments, like the Tom Brady and Paris Hilton experiment, hopefully, people don't like them, and we don't go in that direction. Not because there's anything wrong with what they're doing right now, but because the potential for abuse is so great when these things get really good, and they will get really good very soon.
Well, that's a great springboard, or kind of using to build on top of that to go into and talk about workplace and productivity. I've recently saw that Microsoft integrated an offering into Meta, and I'm sure they'll do more, and essentially pursuing a strategy where their software and application will be available on multiple devices. And we saw the Vision Pro, where from Apple, that is will be debuted next year. And one of their core use cases was workplace and productivity, which is not surprising, especially the price point of the product. How do you imagine that digital twin technology, next generation avatars, are going to shape the next wave of workplace productivity, collaboration? And how do you think AI will amplify that even further?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to productivity, for those of us who've been in kind of the virtual reality, augmented reality field for a long time, 30 years ago, people thought, okay, virtual reality is going to have a huge impact in workplace environments. There's all kinds of things that you can do, especially if you are in a field where 3D content is important, construction, and it never. There were great demos, but it never took off. And in my view, has always been that it hasn't taken off because we often forget about the person in the loop, and the person doesn't want to spend their workday cut off just from their surroundings. And I think we're finally in a place now where both Apple and Meta are now really pushing hard into mixed reality and realizing that for us to have productivity tools that bring the magic of virtual experiences into your daily work routine, you need to simultaneously be able to just see your coworkers and see your office and see your desk and not be cut off from your world. And so I think that Apple clearly gets that with the Vision Pro. I think Meta with the Quest 3, and they're kind of shifting language and messaging around the Quest 3, which is probably a response to Apple. I think really does show that people realize, or that the industry realizes, hey, people will actually use these tools as part of their daily life, part of their daily work routine, if they're not cut off from their actual workplace. And again, by not being cut off, we're not talking about a grainy image. We're talking about you can see your desk, you can see your desk, you can see your workplace. And when we have lightweight XR eyewear, and you can see all your work, now virtual reality will be part of that, part of your experience, and you will be talking to someone who's sitting directly across from your desk. And if there's a third person that you want in that meeting, and that person could join virtually and appear to be sitting there with you two in person, and it's one seamless mixed reality, it will get integrated into our normal work. I think we're finally overcoming that barrier now, that it's not forcing a choice between, do you want to be at your desk or do you want to be in a virtual world? You have to be able to be at both at the same time. And when we bring AI into it, well, now the big tech companies that are certainly pushing AI assistants, that's going to be part of that. Those AI assistants are going to be in this virtual mixed reality world. So you'll be sitting at your desk, you'll see your real desk, and your AI assistant will appear in your environment. And that will be, how productivity starts to happen. And if you have an artificial agent that's tasked with doing something for you, it's tasked with, hey, summarize all these documents for me. That artificial agent in this, mixed reality future will be personified, and it will be, personified, and they will, walk up to your desk and say, hey, I've summarized all these documents for you, and I think that's the future that we're headed to. I think there's lots of positive things about it, and it, again, as long as there's protections in place so that all of these same really powerful technologies aren't used against us, as tools of persuasion.
I fully agree, and I'll make the following statement that I believe 2024 will be the beginning of a new era of workplace and interaction in the workplace. I'm not alluding to Meta and Vision Pro as making that leap forward. I think there's going to be incremental improvement before we see a 10x improvement. But I definitely believe in a world where, short of being able to transport ourselves into physical spaces, we will be able to be in other places fully remotely, fully virtually, through goggles, and even more so, full body computing, haptic gloves, suits that you can actually feel a handshake remotely. I believe it's going to be there. It's not going to replace travel. It's not going to replace being in person, but it will be the closest you can get to virtually and remotely. I do believe it will start with workplace. I do believe it will start with businesses and business executives, right? If I want to close a deal with the president of a certain company, and short of being there with him, it will be a virtual feeling of being there, even to the level of a handshake. I believe we're heading in that direction. I believe we're going to be there by the end of the decade, but we've said we're going to be there by the end of the decade for 30 years, right? So without predicting when, by the end of this decade or the next decade, it is clearly the direction. Again, short of a transporter, a virtual transporter that actually puts us in a different place, I do think we're moving into a new era of collaboration remotely and virtually. And it's going to require a new generation to really drive that lead forward, because for most people, it's going to be very odd and unintuitive. With that in mind, Louis, what's the thing you're most excited about for the next 12 months?
Yeah. So I'll talk for a minute about stuff that I'm working on that I'm excited about.
Please.
Which is, as we've talked about before, my focus really for the last 9 years has been on using AI to connect groups of people together, to amplify the intelligence of groups. And it sounds different. You could ask, like how did my career start in virtual and augmented reality and end up in using AI to connect groups of people together? All of my work is really focused on how to use technology to amplify human abilities. And for me, when I look at the potential of AI, the thing I worry about the most is AI replacing people, and the thing I get excited about the most is the potential of AI to enhance people and to make groups of people smarter, to allow groups of people to make better decisions, to allow groups of people to have reach better outcomes when you have lots of different opinions and views. And so much of the problems that I see, really, especially over the last decade in society, come from the fact that we humans have we evolved to make good decisions in really small groups, right? Like we evolved to be small tribes sitting around a campfire, and when we're at that level of interaction, we can understand each other, and we can deliberate, and we can reach decisions that are good for everybody. We can hear everybody, and we now are in a society that has millions, if not billions, of stakeholders, and we just didn't evolve to be able to reach good decisions that way. And so what my company, Unanimous AI, has been working on for the last decade has been, how do we use AI to connect groups of people together? The technology that we develop is called artificial swarm intelligence, because it's modeled on the principle of biological swarms. That's how other species have evolved to make better decisions as groups. Schools of fish, flocks of birds, swarms of bees use this principle of swarm intelligence, where they don't take a poll the way humans do. They don't have a hierarchy the way humans do, where just somebody at the top makes a decision. They work together as a real-time system, and they converge on answers, solutions to problems that are just best for the group as a whole. And so for the last 9 years, we've been doing that with groups using graphical interfaces that have allowed kind of look like schools of fish, and we've shown that groups can make better decisions. We've worked with the United Nations, we've worked with large universities, we've worked with big nonprofits, and groups can make better decisions that are best for the group as a whole when they follow this principle of swarm intelligence. But we've not been able to make that happen in a kind of a natural conversational way. And just a few weeks ago, we started showing our latest technology, which we call conversational swarm intelligence. And what it does is it allows groups of any size, could be a group of 50 people, 500 people, ultimately it could be 5 million people, hold a real-time natural conversation and converge on solutions that optimize the collective support of the whole group. And we've not gotten to groups that's that large yet, but we've been doing groups of 100 people, a couple hundred people, and we find that this conversational swarm intelligence technology actually it works. It's allowing groups to reach better decisions, to reach decisions they can better agree upon. We just last week started running IQ tests with groups of people as a conversational swarm, and we see that they can solve problems together conversationally that the vast majority of the individuals couldn't have solved on their own. And so the thing that I'm really excited about over the next 12 to 24 months is, again, using AI to allow groups to kind of solve our evolutionary limitation, which is that we are well equipped as humans to function in small tribes and make good decisions. We are struggling with the fact that we so rapidly built this society of millions and billions, and what we really need are tools that allow us collectively to amplify our collective intelligence, amplify our collective wisdom, and just make better decisions as humans. And I do think AI can help us do that, and I think it's an important alternative to the other approach, which is to use AI to just offload decisions for us, which is a big push that people are doing for efficiency, because it's more efficient if the AI makes decisions for you, but then we really lose the human part of the decisions. We lose the human values and morals and emotions. So that's what I'm working on right now. We're doing it in flat environments, traditional computing, but ultimately we see it as how people could interact in the metaverse. Our hope is that we have tools in the metaverse, which again is a place where millions or billions of people can be simultaneously present. And our hope at the work that we're doing is to say, well, can we allow those large groups of people in the metaverse to hold a single conversation? If you have 2,000 people in the metaverse, imagine if they could hold a single conversation, quickly brainstorm and come up with a great solution. They could never do that in person, in real life, but they can do that in the metaverse with the support of AI. So that's what I'm excited about, and it's what I work on, mostly.
That's really exciting. Thank you so much for the overview, Louis. And it does remind me the swarm intelligence AI that you're talking about. I remember reading in Nature magazine a few years ago that one of the unique elements of why the Homo sapiens were able to out-compete the Neanderthals was because Homo sapiens had a decoded gene in their DNA that allows them to collaborate more effectively as groups that the Neanderthals were not able to. And that became a distinctive feature of humanity and civilization. You're talking now about how do we do 100, 1,000x to that, which I think is fascinating. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, absolutely does. And these you think of them as in some sense subtle evolutionary changes. I mean, even like we talked about it a few minutes ago, the ability of people to read the emotions on the face of another person and feel their emotions. And again, sitting around a campfire with 12 other people, you can have a sense of how everybody's feeling, and reach a plan or a decision that is good for the group. It's almost impossible for us to do that right now when the group reaches even 100 people, let alone 1,000 people. And that's my hope is we can have technology allow us to really allow 1,000 people to have a thoughtful deliberation and reach smart answers that I think is a power that AI can help us do. And I think that virtual worlds will be part of that. Ultimately, we will start to see reasons. It will be one of the reasons why you can do things in a virtual world you can't do in the real world, because we can leverage the wisdom of large groups in new and interesting ways.
Fascinating. Took so much note, Louis. I have a few thoughts and ideas I want to talk to you about. But in the meantime, Louis, thank you so much for your second appearance on the podcast and for the 2 parts that we've done this time. I'm sure, we're going to talk more and more in the future as things progress. But in the meantime, really appreciate you coming on board and sharing your amazing insights.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's always fun.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the metaverse.